Profit fam. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in. We're a couple of minutes early, so I don't want to make anybody mad. So we're not going to get started, but we're just going to have you come in and join in. The question that we're asking today, guys, is first I'll say Happy New Year. I don't know. I said it last Saturday as well, but the question I'm asking, guys, is when do you stop saying Happy New Year? When do you guys, is there a date? Is it the second week of the year? Is it all month? Can you say Happy New Year? I'm just curious about that. Hey, Helena, so good to see you. We have to catch up soon. Hello, hello. Guys, go ahead and drop in, answer that question there, and then tell me how your drop an emoji of how your first week of the new year has been. You know, go ahead and drop an emoji for me as well. She said Happy New Year. For a long time, I know some people say Happy New Year's. Have you ever heard that before, Terry?
Yeah.
Happy New Year. So when do you stop saying it? Are you still saying Happy New Year?
I'm not saying it. I didn't really say it because I felt that we really had to wait and see how was 2021 really going to be different in one day from what we all went through last year. So I feel like once we reach a point where we're out and about again and we return to normal, let's have a celebration then.
Yeah,
right?
happy.
Yeah,
that makes
happy
sense.
New life.
New life. That's a good point of view. I didn't even think about that at all. That's a very, very good point of view there. I see you have what do you have today? What are you drinking on?
I'm drinking coffee out of a mug that my girlfriend gave me that says, "You say crazy cat lady," like it's a bad thing. Because I've got lots of animals, cats and dogs.
Oh my goodness. We
all
had
rescues.
I want to say we had someone on in December that she's doing a cat cafe.
Oh, where is it located? I want to go.
Do you know where that's located at, the cat cafe? I will find out and we'll make sure we send you her information.
Yeah. I love that idea.
Absolutely. And she had her cats were, I think, walking around in the background during the so that's awesome. I have tea, guys. I have peppermint tea right now. My husband got me this like a little tea set for our anniversary, and I've been making everybody have tea with me, which happens to be full of I have all boys.
Oh, do you?
They're all having tea with me, so I just love it. Absolutely.
Oh, you're a good mom. Women love men whose mothers teach them things like that, etiquette and having tea time. That's a wonderful ritual.
It is, absolutely, and a time to really kind of just slow down. And just really slow down, enjoy, take a little beat. So I used to drink a lot of coffee. I still drink coffee sometimes now, but I'm a heavy sweetener. You know, those people that say, do you put sugar in your coffee or coffee in your sugar? That's me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to cut back a little bit because it's always going.
Oh, yeah. So I got a tip if that's you. I would do you like cinnamon tea?
I do. You know what? I love cinnamon.
That's so
I love
good.
Tea.
Tazo, Tazo brand cinnamon tea is just sweet enough where I think you'd really enjoy it. And it's just a wonderful flavor in the afternoon.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, peppermint in the morning.
Tazo, I love Tazo brand too.
Yeah, yes, they have, I think, really very high quality blends. And the morning peppermint get you started, and cinnamon bring you mellow down a little.
Absolutely. Sounds like you. I can't wait till one day we can have some tea face to face.
I hope that's
right up that alley. Absolutely.
This year. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see here. Dominique said February. Oh, she said you can say Happy New Year until February. Now, the one thing that I'll say about that is I have my birthday is on January 27th. So it's this month. I'm an Aquarius, which
Me too.
Shut up.
25th, honey.
What is your birthday?
I'm on the 25th.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's why oh my gosh, we'll have to tell folks how we just connected immediately.
Yes.
On the phone. Oh, that's so cool.
That is crazy.
Aquarian.
Yes, guys, we have to tell you how we connected because it was completely just happenstance, so to
Yes.
speak. But before we do that, as people are chiming in here, I'm going to go ahead and let Terry introduce herself to you all so you guys can get an idea of why she's going to be able to get the information that we have in the title here behind the scenes of the grant approval process. So go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone, Terry.
Well, good morning, everyone, wherever you are. I'm really excited to be on today's podcast because, as Tracy's told me, many of you are in the nonprofit field, and several of you are probably starting nonprofits or in the what I call the beginning phase of getting out there, doing your work, and attracting money. My background is philanthropy. I was fortunate enough 30 years ago this June to be a temp, get that, in a large insurance corporation in Minneapolis with a national presence. But as a temp, they were hiring a person in their community relations department. So I really started at the bottom. And I would, say that was the best gift I ever received because prior to that, I graduated with a master's in business. And to be honest with you, I didn't really understand money.
Mm-hmm.
I know you think, hey, that girl's smart. Oh no, I was afraid of finance and money, and I didn't want to know anything about it. So, working for a foundation in a large corporation at the entry level state was wonderful because I got to learn everything firsthand of what it takes for organizations to apply for a grant, how we develop guidelines and strategies of what we want to fund. And we would learn from the community what was really important. I mean, it wasn't that we want to decide what the issues are. We let the community tell us what are the issues, what needs to be funded. So, starting there, I was fortunate. The woman in charge left about a year and a half into my job, and the company saw my potential and they groomed me to become the executive director. And I was like, what? So I learned and listened, and I had a fantastic 11 years with this corporation. And then they were bought out by an international company. And I chose at that time to strike out on my own and become a consultant. And I got to work with businesses in the state. And then, as fortune would have it again, I was hired as a consultant by a family foundation, well known in my community. And I started as a consultant temp again and became a staff member and had another 11 years with the family foundation. And so I have corporate and family foundation experience. And so I am celebrating my 30th year in the business, but I retired several years ago because I felt that it was time for me, and maybe that's my Aquarian nature. It was just time for me to do something else and spread my wings. And so for the past couple years, I have been working with small nonprofits and small business owners, helping them get their financials together so that they could grow and that they could, understand and how to apply for grants and have the financial documents in place so the foundation could understand that they were at a point where the investment made sense too. And there's a saying in my business, seed money is a great way to connect with small nonprofits. And many foundations will take the time to provide seed money. And we can get into that detail later. I just want to hear from all your guests what they want to know.
Awesome. You guys heard that right there. She is open to questions as well, guys. So go ahead and start adding your questions in here, so that if you have specific questions about why, some organizations didn't get approved or did get approved. One thing that stood out to me, though, that I want to make sure I make a point on about your story was sounds like you've never been afraid of starting small, starting as a temp, and that's great.
Yeah.
That's a gift right there.
Yes, yeah, I think it is a gift, and I encourage everyone, especially in this new year, let go of your fears. Find ways to address what really scares you, because your potential is waiting to reveal itself, but you got to get rid of the fear. And maybe it was easy for me because of my nature, but I know a lot of people are holding themselves back. Let it go, because nobody's got the answers. And people would look at me and they'd say, well, what you say makes sense and we follow what you say. And I say, well, I want to follow what you say. So we both have to appreciate each other's gifts and just let the relationship blossom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And taking those small steps, that's just so important to just kind of step
Yeah.
out there. That's a big issue when it comes to new nonprofits. Rosalind said, how do I see the live? Oh, we're on the live now, Rosalind. So we're here. It should have popped up.
Hi.
Hopefully you can see it now. Hi, Nelson. Happy New Year. Happy new decade. Yes, my hubby said happy new decade. Absolutely. And I like to say, we're in the season of the what did they say? The age of the Aquarius now. So
Yeah.
how does that feel? Absolutely. Okay, one person has a question. Marika
Yes.
said, are you able to see? Oh, okay. She was just making sure we can see, everyone can see, because it looks like we had a couple of little yes, okay, everyone can see. So awesome. We got those tech glitches figured out. She said, what factors made you deny grants? That's the first question we have.
Oh, that is a great question. And by the way, I want to toot my own horn. I used to say my success was being able to say no in a very respectful way. And the way that I gauged that was I'd get thank you notes from people saying, that was the nicest decline I ever had.
Wow.
And I taught staff, one of the best things you can do is if you have to decline, and honestly, in our field, we may have a lot of money to give away. I gave away millions, yes, but we can't fund everything. And so relationships to me are more important. And what makes me, what do I factor into a declination? Oftentimes, an organization really just did not understand our guidelines. And they took a shot in the dark and said, I'm just going to apply. I like to always be available by phone. I mean, it was easy to reach me. My phone number was listed on our websites. And I know that that's not true for all of us, all of my peers, my colleagues, because it's a really busy environment. Usually you're short staffed too. Believe it or not, you're short staffed on the foundation side. So not everyone had the personal touch, but I make that a priority. And I would explain to an organization specifically why they were declined. So I can offer generalities, but I would honestly say most of my declinations were the result of an organization not fully understanding our guidelines.
Wow, that is the fact that you said you offered exactly giving them some tips, letting them know why they were declined and what the
Hmm.
problem was. That's one of the tips that I give to my nonprofits when they're applying for grants is if they receive a denial letter and they don't have any tips, to request. Say, hey, is there anything you could tell me that would that would
Excellent.
so it's good
Yes.
to hear that in your organization you automatically gave them that feedback so that they can understand that why and be more prepared the next time. So, and another thing is when it comes to research,
Yeah.
you're saying that it's so important to do your research first. Make sure that you're applying for a grant from an organization where you hold the same type of you're trying to do the same type of things for the community. So making sure you review those guidelines before you apply.
Correct. And in the field of philanthropy, I've been out of it a few years, but I've been following trends. And one trend that I think is emerging and is getting better is more transparency on the foundation part, because I think the complaint over the years has been, how do we really know what an organization wants to do when we don't feel that they're fully transparent in how they do their work? And so arrogance has to go by the wayside. And I'm really proud that I think more young professionals in the field are doing a better job of identifying the focus or the needs of their organization to fund good work and to be available, explaining why they chose that focus, how they can help move that issue along and address the ways to really correct that. I'm not really saying this well. Let me back up a minute. It's about saying, how do we become partners in addressing the issue that you as a nonprofit has identified in your community that needs help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
scratch that last part. Oh, well.
That's okay.
Part of life.
You're saying what I always say, which is it's all about the impact.
Yeah,
How do you
absolutely.
create
Impact. Thank
win-win?
you.
It's about that impact. How are you impacting? Are you really able to access this community? Are you experimenting with the funders' money? I like to say, think of it as your money. If someone asked you for some money and you had a dedicated amount that you wanted to put into this issue, what's going to be the number one thing that's to your mind is that the issue is being resolved, that there's some type of path being created, or there's some type of progress being made on the issue. So I think a lot of times
Absolutely.
we do things a little bit backwards and we try to just get the money and then figure out a way to, when in all actuality, answer me if I'm correct on this one or let me know if I'm wrong. You're looking for applications where they have already done that experimentation, see the issue, have a solid plan, and are ready to implement that plan.
I would agree with that statement, but I would also offer that there were many times, especially at the family foundation level, where I was able to take more risk and look at emerging activities that really didn't have a strong track record yet, but their vision was clear. Their skill set was aligned with how they were going to achieve that vision. And that's where we would, what I would call, put in seed investment. Like, we just go along with the organization and provide them the financial support to get to a new level. And many times that included technical assistance, advice, mentoring. And I have some really good examples of where I'm I'm proud that we took a risk. We took risks too. But
Mm-hmm.
not all foundations can do that. So I don't want to speak for everyone else. It was just an example of my own experience.
And that's awesome. But there are several nonprofits or several foundations that state that they do seed money. So if you are a new
Yes.
organization, you're brand new, going after that seed money first is probably going to be your best bet and starting there, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Go for it. See if you can learn. If you do get declined, see if you can learn why you weren't ready. I do have examples of grants that I made over the years where the organization wasn't ready and it wasn't successful. Um, but the people involved learned a lot, and that's okay. I think we're all afraid of failure in this world, and
Hmm.
let's let that go. Remember earlier I said let go of your fears. Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, I think that's the best way to succeed, is to fail first. I know that sounds funny,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely. But that's huge. It's
yeah,
huge because a lot of times you're not moving. If you mindset is so big, and I like to say that I'm always developing and growing, and everybody who I'm connected to, from the 5-year-old to the person in the grocery store, when I used to go to the grocery store often, I try to learn from every experience.
yeah,
And so sometimes, for an example, I'm not gifted in I guess this is so bad to say, but I'm not gifted in the cleaning. Doesn't come natural to me. I'm a clean and organized person, but I know a lot of women in my circle where they enjoy it, where they enjoy organizing, keeping things super nice, and it's not, a big task for them. For
yeah,
me, it can be a big task. Well,
yes,
I was uh, doing some things with some of my family members, and they were saying, "You are so overthinking it. It's just not a big deal. You're like overthinking the task. If you make
yeah,
it complicated in your head, it's going to be
right.
complicated." So if you're saying things like I just said, cleaning doesn't come naturally to me, and things like that, you're automatically starting to lower your mindset, and it's going to freeze your action taken. And we can transform that same information into anything and
You
say,
know,
we're over.
that's right.
Mhm.
In fact, I wanna play off that overthinking piece. Too often, I would receive grant proposals. Let's say it was a round of requests that I was looking for to fund something specific. So I would get anywhere from 50 to 100 proposals. So keep that in mind. And I've got to read them all. But overthinking is exhibited even in an organization's mission statement. Sometimes those mission statements were 20, 30 words long.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, I got lots of fun stories though about philanthropy. I should really write them all down some point, but I love to share. So I would plow through this 30-word mission statement and I would think to myself, how am I going to explain this to the board? You know, because
Mhm.
I have to summarize everything in really short sentences and easy to convey messages to my board so that they can quickly capture the essence of the work, right? Because I can spend time with the organization, but the board is really not going to spend that time. They want to, but they're doing their job. So, these 30-word messages, that's overthinking it. And I encourage nonprofits to whittle it down to maybe 7 words. Do some research, even how to develop a really good mission statement.
Hmm.
You can start with that. I mean, if I can give you one thing to get going on, examine your mission statement and see if you can succinctly describe your work in a fewer words. Don't overthink it, okay?
I'm going to write that one down and
Yeah.
make sure that
And you'll have fun
7
looking
word
at
mission
mission
statement.
statements.
That's
Yeah.
the goal. 7 word mission statement, guys. Like
Yeah.
keeping it simple. I when in our school days and things like that, sometimes there are certain projects where you think the more the better. Like the more, oh, let me give more, let me have more. And that's
Oh,
just
yeah.
not the case. It's
No.
it's the, it's what you're doing. It's the impact. It's not necessarily the more the better and the more information. First and foremost, knowing that someone's on the other end that has to read all of this you know
Right, right.
and read all of this with information from other nonprofits in their head all day as well. So you're also piling on to that type of mindset already, having that other information from other nonprofits and keeping it simple so that you're able to get the point as quickly as possible seems like that would be a major benefit when it comes to preparing your grants, preparing your mission statements, and things like that. Keeping it pretty simple.
Yes, yes. I mean, many of you think the grass is greener on the side of funders, but I've got to tell you that being a risk taker, I retired or left my career twice uh, because I was burned out, and I felt that you can only read proposals so many hours and
Hmm.
so many years before you reach a point of saturation too. So the burnout rate can be high on the funder side, and many times I would be left wondering, what did I even make a difference? So I know that nonprofits many times staff, there's high turnover and burnout, and wondering if they're making a difference. I think the field that we choose is extremely dynamic and has so many benefits on both sides, but we have to really find balance. That's why I call my organization Chicks and Balances, because I know the burnout rate is high on both sides, and I can't stress it enough that take time for yourself, and don't, getting back to that overthinking, don't overdo either.
Mhm.
Take care of
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
first.
And for most of our nonprofits, mentorship is something that's layered in there in some type of way, whether it be youth mentorship, business mentorship. I would even say for
Yes.
your business, it's mentorship. And one thing that really helps me as I say, a former people pleaser is that when you're taking care of yourself, you're showing the closest members around you and the people that have that advantage of having your mentorship. You're showing them how you take care of yourself as well, and how to make sure that you're balanced and you're not, so that you can show up better as a nonprofit head or president, as a mom, as a wife. All of those things, you have to fill your cup first. So I'm glad you mentioned that at the
Yeah.
beginning of this year, when some people are feeling overwhelmed.
Oh, already. And
Yeah.
and for good reason. We
Hmm.
all as a nation are feeling very overwhelmed. But let's move on
Hmm.
and be excited about what's to come
Hmm.
and what we can do. I mean, one thing that this past year has shown all of us is we can work in a new way. We can really count on ourselves first to address what we need to do. And those are gifts that we would not have had if we hadn't had this sort of thrust on us, this whole lockdown or, all the turmoil going on. This is the world we live in today, but there's a lot of opportunity. So harness it.
Yes.
Get
Yes.
ready.
Absolutely. And you get to have this experience. You get to have the experience of, I've had this random vision this morning of me talking to like my grandchildren and being older and talking to them about appreciation. You know how, I
Yeah.
don't know if you had any elders in your life that would tell these old stories about different things that went by, and living through that, and then be like, listen, you need to appreciate everything, every single thing that you have, that you get to hang out with people and you get to be in large groups. And there was a time and I was there, so we
Yeah.
the word, simple words, get to, has been life changing for me. I believe I heard them. A coach said it in a parenting coaching. I'm a firm believer of coaching and mentorship, so I try to absorb as much as I can in that area. And she said, just changing that mindset to get to, when it comes to your children and being overwhelmed, when it comes to a lot of things, just remembering that there is somebody praying for your situation.
Oh, I like that. Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me take a look at these questions here and make sure. Okay, good. The tech difficulties were figured out. So we have that in there. Awesome. All right. So, guys, if you have any other questions, let us know. But first, we're going to dive into, while they're loading up any questions there, we're going to dive into new nonprofits. It's probably going to be about 60% of the individuals watching this are going to be brand new. So a lot of times with a huge vision, they want to have maybe housing for domestic violence survivors, or, a youth home or things like that. But they're just starting, they're just trying to get their board together and things like that. And a lot of times, what I find as trending is the first thing that they go to in their mind is the grant process and how to get grants and how to, that's the first focus. And sometimes is not the best first focus. What advice would you have for brand new nonprofits as to what they should be focusing on, to really create something?
All right. Well, one one thing you can do right away is whatever state you're in, there is an organization that serves the nonprofit community. In the state of Minnesota, it's the Minnesota Council on Nonprofits. There's also a counter organization in every state, and it's usually the one that helps foundations do their work. And that in the
Hmm.
state of Minnesota is the Minnesota Council on Foundations or of Foundations. Okay. So both of those member organizations do a great job of online training, and they host events, and they have conferences, and they have focus areas. Get lined up with your state affiliate. You can also think about working under a fiscal sponsorship model. So you're you're ready to roll and you're waiting for the IRS to give you tax exemption. I'm sure there are many of you that are just sitting and waiting for that
Mhm.
letter from the IRS to become a charitable educational institution. Don't lose out. There might be an organization again in your area or state, in the state of Minnesota, an organization that I'm honored to volunteer with is
Hmm.
Propel for nonprofits, and they offer fiscal sponsorship support.
Wow.
So some nonprofits just aren't ready to hit the ground running, and that's okay. But they can go to organizations like Propel and receive the type of support they need so they'll be successful in the long run. And I would encourage everyone to, wherever you live, if you want to see a great example of online training, go to Propel for nonprofits.org. I believe that's the website, but you'll find it. They have wonderful training, and what I really like are their financial training modules, because as a funder, I have to say many times organizations, they, especially new organizations, they just didn't really present themselves properly, and some good guidance on how to put together financial reports that make sense really allows a funder time then to focus more on your work and not have to focus on why your financials don't make sense. Does that make
Yes,
does that make
absolutely.
sense?
Absolutely. What I
Yeah.
heard in that, and that spelled that right, Propel, Propel.
Yes, yes. And if you have a
One thing,
computer in front of you, maybe we can have somebody just make sure I gave you the
yeah,
right.
can we make sure, can you take a look
Yeah.
at that and then add the
I,
URL there? So we'll have that there.
oh, that'd be
That's
great.
awesome, because what I heard was don't go it alone. Don't
No.
just go and, and it happens all the time though.
Yeah.
You'll get a nonprofit idea and someone will just, they'll kind of just get going. We had a young lady on last week, and she was talking about, just kind of getting burnt out a little bit because she tried to get it all done and get it done on her own and just kind of put
Oh,
placeholders in
no.
her board. And now she's coming back, and she's coming back with a different mindset. She just got 3 grants starting this new year. So,
Yay!
so that's amazing. And you guys can watch that. It was the one right before this video. But I think that's a big issue sometimes. You mentioned the word, I forgot the word you mentioned, but basically not leaning on support and looking for the support that you have,
Right.
just kind of thinking, I'm just going to do this. The great thing about nonprofits is it's community based. The first step is
Yes.
building the board,
Yes.
so
Yes.
so it's about community, and it's about bringing people together, so that if no other space, this isn't the space to try to just do it on your own.
Absolutely. And I also have to say, social media, especially Facebook, there are Facebook groups where you can
Hmm.
join and put questions to the greater community of nonprofits. I belong to several, and I'm trying to think. Sometimes these groups change their names, so I apologize right now off the top of my head. There was one called Happy Hour for Nonprofits, or Nonprofit Happy Hour, and I
Hmm.
loved it because people would pose questions, and many of these questions were coming from brand new, emerging, young nonprofits.
Hmm.
And you got all kinds of great advice. And you could have fun too.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Joining those groups, get your coffee or your tea and just
Yeah.
get in there. Even just going through when you join and you're reading, we're a part of a couple of them as well. I think one is Thriving Nonprofit, and there's a
Uh-huh.
newbie. We'll list some of those as well, but we have a couple of nonprofit groups that we're involved in. And even just reading through, you learn so much as a new nonprofit, because you're going to see a question that you have as well. And then you
Yeah.
can see the answers and things like that. And so taking that time to do your research is
Yes.
really
Yes.
important. Hmm.
Yes. And get connected with other people because they can open doors. I mean, Tracy, you and I are example of, we were connected in a very, like not a straight, narrow, linear, excuse me,
Not
linear
at all.
path. But we both realized we had something to share. And I love the power of the internet
I do
and
too.
social media if it's used properly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so funny. Yeah, we were connected through another nonprofit that we both serve in some type of way. And we both got on the phone, like not really clear as to exactly what we were doing, but we were able to make this connection, which is amazing. That just goes to
Yeah.
show, same thing. Another story that from the other young lady, she said she was at the bank doing something and they were asking about the nonprofit of Teller. And she come to find out she has some of the a similar passion as Colorful Dreams, that nonprofit, and they were able to link up. So it's just getting
Oh,
that movement and moving without that fear. Like you said, just kind of
Yes.
taking those steps, being okay with failing, being okay with someone saying no.
Yeah.
Someone just may say no, and then you'll be able to you always learn. As long as you're moving, you learn whether it's going in the direction you hoped it would, or whether it's
Yeah.
going in a different direction.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So absolutely. What types of tips would you give, or let me make sure that I've answered anyone else's questions first before we dig into that. When applying for grants, do you have to have a formal / official audit?
Well, no. I mean, grant makers may ask for that, but then that's a way, that's an interesting way that a grant maker is saying that they won't fund an organization under 750,000, which is the requirement for an audit. So if you're a new
Um,
organization, and most new organizations, I would say, have budgets under 100,000. And I work with organizations that only have 20,000. Work can get done, but
mhm.
um, an audit is an expensive tool that confirms that you have good management practices in place. And for some funders, that's extremely important. But those funders are likely to fund mid-sized to large organizations with budgets over 2 million.
Okay, gotcha. So that typically
So,
means that they
look
work
at
with.
what the funder is expecting. And I personally did not expect to see an audit done on an organization with $20,000.
Mhm.
The management practices I could pretty quickly assess. Again, will this money be used the way it's expected?
That's it. Talk
Yeah.
about simplicity.
Yeah.
That's a
What
simple
I
question
do,
right there.
but one thing I will do is I will put in a plug for your tax return. And honestly, there is so much information on the internet about your organization through websites such as GuideStar, which I
Mhm.
believe now is merged and called Candid. Double check that.
Okay.
But you, as a registered nonprofit in your state, you will be required to file a tax return. And you can get a lot of good information on your state website about an organization's financials. So I can't stress enough that pay attention more to your tax return than worry about an audit. And many
Hmm.
times people don't even recognize the opportunity to tell their story in a tax return. There are questions about your work, and in those questions, there are ways to even show your impact.
Wow.
Yes.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. And just knowing how much information, taking the time. A lot of times, I think the biggest problem with new nonprofits is they're trying to do so much and they don't know what to focus on. But
Right.
taking your
Right.
time in these things, that sometimes some people are scared of the financials, and we'll segue a little bit into that because that's exactly
Yeah. Oh my
what you work
gosh.
with specifically.
Yeah.
What would you say to people that are kind of scared to dive into their financials and make sure
Uh,
everything is laid out properly?
I share your I shared your fear. I
Mhm.
used to get sick to my stomach just
Hmm.
looking at a financial statement, a balance sheet, or a profit and loss statement. And those are two of the three, I think, most critical reports you have to know how to read them. Cash flow is the third. Um, and I don't know how others feel, but when your body reacts physically to something, it's telling you, oh, I don't want to do this. Well, eventually I learned how to overcome that fear. And as I said, even though I had an MBA, I don't know how I got that MBA and didn't know how to really read financial statements. But don't tell anyone.
It's
I
okay.
won't tell you the institution. They might come back and require me to go through a couple classes again. But I learned through practice. I learned through others taking classes through those organizations that I mentioned earlier, the ones that support your growth, your learning experience, and they'll, meet you where you are.
Mhm.
But when you start to manage money for your organization, you'll quickly see that some of your knowledge is also based in how do you manage your own personal finances too.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the two go hand in hand, and you'll see some similarities that you probably are afraid of your own personal finances as much as you are your organizations. So work with people that can help you get over that fear. There are a lot of people like me out there that are more than willing to walk you through, and there are no stupid questions. My gosh, we're all in this together. You know, so ask away.
Ask
Don't be
away.
afraid
Mm-hmm.
that you don't know anything. I think that if I can share that too as advice, it's okay not to know everything. I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know everything about money. I mean, I look at people who manage a lot of money on the investment side, but I know enough about my experience, my skills that I have other people invest my money. I don't play the stock market. I don't even want to pretend to know how to invest my retirement funds. I have to trust. But
That's huge. That's
yeah,
huge. Building a team. Because some
yes.
people, sometimes when people say the terminology building a team, they immediately think this huge team or this huge,
Yeah.
thing that they have going on or something like that. Sometimes building a team is an app. Adding an app QuickBooks, maybe what your
Yeah.
team can be right now,
Yeah.
but like you said, with your stock as well, having someone else come in and not sometimes as entrepreneurs and us being similar in birthdays and everything, probably the same. If we really want to, I like to say, especially with the internet, we can learn something and figure it
Yeah.
out. But that's not the most beneficial thing for you to do with your time always. Sometimes it's
No.
good to put that expert in there, that person that enjoys doing this, and this is fun for them. So that's a good piece of advice right there. Absolutely. Okay, she put the website on here as well, guys. This is Propel Nonprofits. So this is the website if you guys want to go to that one as
Yeah.
well. A little bit of a bonus question that I get a lot is building your nonprofit board and just connecting in the community with other people who are passionate. A lot of people are having a hard time doing that, especially now, especially with the year with 2020, because there was a lot of distractions and things like that. Is there any tips you would have on that specifically?
Well, Propel for nonprofits, that's
Mhm.
another great organization where they have specific training modules, I believe, on
Wow.
attracting board members. So much this past year has allowed us to see the weaknesses in our safety nets, in our social services, and people are just wanting to give back more. I'm
Hmm.
really excited about that. I was afraid that more groups would be hurt by the changes, but you can see people stepping up because they want to address the social services and other areas in our community. The arts have been incredibly hurt by this, economic change. And so, how can we help? Well, there are a lot of people with experience and passion that would love to volunteer. And maybe the way to do that is to determine how do you and your community and your state attract people. And there may be organizations like Propel in your state that can help you do that, because I have to believe there are a pool of candidates that possibly you could connect and help them connect with you, because people do want to give back, not just monetarily, but with their time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes everyone can give back in different ways. One thing I was saying in the video last week was, the young lady that she connected to, who was also in youth development and things like that. She didn't want to start her own organization. She's just passionate about it. Hey, great. I can join on with your
That's a really good
organization.
point.
That's awesome. Some people want to be able to put money into it because they don't have a lot of time available. So they maybe want to be an advisor or a funder or something like that. And so,
Oh yeah. Tracy, that is a good point. Many of you who are listening today, I encourage you to think, do you have to start a nonprofit
mhm,
to accomplish the work you feel compelled to do? Maybe you could be on a board or serve as an advisor, because you have something to bring to the table. So really question where you feel that your work has to be done by a standalone nonprofit, because
mhm,
that's a lot of work, and it may all the day-to-day activities may distract you from doing what you're most compassionate about. So maybe you should be on a board
I love
first.
that. I love that. That is such an ego checking question right there, you know, because ultimately, as people in philanthropy and as
Yeah.
humanitarians, the goal is whatever area you've been called to impact.
Yes.
So you have to think if joining forces with someone is going to make more of an impact than you doing it individually, what would be the reasons for you to do it individually?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that is just an absolute great question to ask yourself. And I would even suggest if you're starting a nonprofit out for the first time, maybe even before you get started, even if you know that you definitely want to start your own nonprofit and you know that's something that's coming down the line, I would highly suggest volunteering with a similar nonprofit in your area, getting an idea, making sure that you know that this is something. Sometimes you don't know until you get your hands in there and you start that mentorship work, you start doing the things
Yes.
that you've been called to do. And so
Great
I would highly
advice.
suggest that, and they're always looking for volunteers, you know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely. And
Really
that's
good
a research
advice.
study. That's an opportunity for you to really see, you know, what's going on. Is this really a gap? Because that's another question you always have to ask as well is, let's see, where is this gap? How is this a gap? Is it already being fulfilled? Is there an adjustment that I need to make to fulfill it? You know, and so that's definitely something I would suggest. We have a couple other questions coming in here. I have recently read that a lot of people are afraid and uncomfortable of even the word money when we should.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's dive in there because, guys, specifically what Terry's doing now is she's a financial coach. Tell us a little bit about your
I
services and.
Yes. Well, I've learned by working with individuals that we've got to find a way to demystify money. You
Mhm.
know, a lot of us have not grown up in families where we talk about money, and it isn't because of lack of money. Even families with a lot of money, we don't talk about money.
Mhm.
It's kind of a taboo subject still. And when I worked for that large insurance company that I talked about, where I started my career, that was in the early 90s. And by the end of the 90s, our insurance company became a full financial service company
Mm.
because the trends in the business became we can't work in silos anymore. We have to recognize that if we're going to survive in insurance, we have to add banking and financial education.
Mm.
And so, one of the thrills of my life at the end of the 90s was working directly with financial education institutions. And I was even fortunate enough to help uh, co collaborate, whatever you want to call it, with a TV show on public TV called Right on the Money with Chris
Mm.
Farrell. You might
Wow.
be able to go back and watch some of those episodes,
Right
but
on the
that
money. Can you put that
Right
in the
on the
comments?
money. Yeah,
Mm.
it was developed out of Twin Cities Public Television, and it was a series for a couple of years that was carried through all the public television affiliates. And Chris Farrell helps demystify money.
Hmm.
And if you were part of the beginning of this podcast, you heard even my own reluctance and fear around money. And I don't know where that comes from, but the more that I work with people, the more I break down what that fear is, and then they're empowered to finally seek for themselves ways to grow and understand money. It's pretty basic, but we're all unsure how we're going to get started. And I try through my organization, I try to help them where people are in their
Absolutely.
level of knowledge
And
first.
that is so that's huge when it comes to, because one thing that a lot of times when it comes to money, one thing that we do is a lot of times we always want more. We know that there's a lag and oh, I need more. I need to create more. And but what we don't
Yeah.
look at is we don't look at the back door and how you are utilizing the funds
Oh,
that you
yes.
already have. Because if you're bringing in $100 a month or if you're bringing in $10,000 a month, if at the end of the day you're bringing in 10,000 and spending 15,000 and the person with 100 has $50 left over, who's the wealthier person? So sometimes we don't focus on that funnel and how we're really funneling what we already have, and how maybe there's an area of waste or area that you can tighten up on, or so it may not just be gaining more. Because I know I see a lot of people where I've actually had the opportunity to see people be in one financial situation, then go to another one higher. And it seems like their energy hasn't changed, if that makes sense. Like, it
Mhm.
seems like they're still, even though they just got, had this big windfall with a lot of money, they look up and they find, I think there's something called a lottery curse too that speaks a little bit on that, where they say sometimes they end up after hitting the lottery in a worse off situation years down, because
Yes.
they didn't assess the real foundation of the problem. So
Correct. One of
huge.
my I think there was a TV show that followed people who won the lottery, and they do say there's a high rate of complete financial collapse after a couple years of winning the lottery.
Hmm.
So that isn't your answer. In fact, I think when people start to track a little bit of where their money goes, the light bulb goes off. The money issue isn't frightening anymore. And I teach people how to empower themselves. Get connected with how you spend your money. And then I offer tools such as develop a really good relationship with a banker.
Mm-hmm.
Many people, they don't recognize how banks can really wipe out some of the money that they earn with fees and
Mm-hmm.
late charges. And, you know, no, there are so many organizations willing to work with you and your money, whether it's personal or business, that offer great deals. In fact, one of the best deals is always try to have a credit card that pays you rewards, because those rewards are financial and they are
Hmm.
non-taxable.
Absolutely.
So having a credit card is something that builds credit, and every time you charge, you get X percent in a financial reward, and then you get a nice little check. And so that little check may be 500, but that $500 can be used for something that you just want to do, and you don't have to file that on your
Hmm.
taxes. I like that. And the other
Absolutely.
part about having a credit card is I talked earlier about understanding cash flow. Put everything on one credit card and pay it off every month. And you don't incur fees, you don't incur late charges, set up auto pay, and now money is working for you.
Hmm. Absolutely. Making it working smarter, not harder. That's
Right.
huge. There are two things: that's working smarter,
More
not
in your
harder,
pocket.
and that tracking. Why,
Oh yeah.
why depend, like, I'm a real big component, especially as I get older, in writing everything down. I use something called Trello. I always talk about it's free, and it's really what I use for group management when it comes to nonprofits. But I've turned it into using it for grocery lists, using it for any little thing that I need to write down, organizing and things like that. Don't Why depend on you to forget about something or something of that nature? If you put it, like you said, on auto pay, then you're not worried about that. And I'm a big component as well of having separate accounts. I know someone had spoke about this a while back, of just having, this account is for this, it's for the spending and for these types of things. This account is specifically for bills, so you've put it all in there and all that is coming out. And these little simple things, it's good to hear you say about credit cards and having that cash back. That's a small thing, but it's all about those little small things that add up. It's not this
Hmm.
big, huge, I think that's a big issue, is a lot of people think
Yes.
there's a big shortcut, or there's a big something that's not going to equal them doing the work and them
Right.
figuring out exactly where their money is going.
Yes. And I would caution people when you think of separating your money in different accounts. I have a client right now that I'm working with who had 5 bank accounts, and
I've
each
heard of that.
one was for different purposes, just
Mhm.
as you were describing. And each one was costing this person money.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you don't have to have separate bank accounts. I would just suggest you have a checking account, a savings account, and a credit card. And if you
Mhm.
can have all 3 with a really good institution that serves you, and I can tell you how you know they're serving you, I'll give you examples. That's it. keep your financial life simple.
Absolutely. Simplicity. That's one of my, I did
Yeah.
words for the year. Someone did it last year. I thought, oh, that's good. Instead of thinking of all these things you want to do, just having words for the year. And my number one word is simplicity. That's it.
Yes.
Simplicity, mentorship, and mindset. That's
Love it.
it. And so sometimes just keeping it simple. It's funny that we talk about personal finances, we talk about nonprofit, we talk about, even if we were talking about for profit, a lot of these things that you were saying would line into all of those different areas. So that's something I just want to make sure people kind of look at, is what area are you succeeding in, and how can you pull that information into this area that maybe you're having a little bit of challenges in. So, and that tracking, I want you guys to remember that tracking. One of the things I'm starting this year is for my intake food. I really want to just start tracking and making sure that I
Right.
know, even if something is bothering you, at least you can look back and say, what's different here? And without even any goal of a weight loss or gain or whatever, that tracking can be so powerful. And I would say it's the same thing when it comes to finances, really
Yes.
understanding where things are going.
I always say you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
You
That's
don't
it.
know.
And if you're avoiding tracking for some reason,
Yeah.
that may be a fear as well. Another fear that some people have when it comes to finances and financial coaching. And as a side note, do you do one-on-one coaching, or do you have courses and group coaching programs as well?
Well, my work to date is one-on-one coaching, and I still have time to work one-on-one. If people are interested, they can go to Terry, Terry, at chicksandbalances.pro. After today's podcast, I hope to populate a website so that you can download some of the information I described, and also go to links that I've talked about or feel that would be helpful to you. So
Awesome.
that's on my list to do, and I hope to accomplish it by the end of January. But for now, if you're interested, one-on-one is really a great way for us to get started in having a conversation.
Absolutely. And we're going to have her email address and information in there, guys, if you want to reach out to her as well. Are you on any of the social media platforms?
I I'm on them on a personal
Okay.
level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
problem. And so we'll have her link for her email. That's going to be the best thing, is for them to send you an email
Yes.
if they want to
Yes.
have a conversation. So
Yes.
on that note of tracking and kind of having fears around tracking, or even fears of having a financial coach. I know that there's a lot of people with my background and things like that, that there's the secrecy thing, like, like it's like dirty laundry or something, especially if you may have some bad spending habits, or maybe you're a new
Oh,
nonprofit and you're not
don't
sure if you're doing
yeah,
things right.
don't
Mhm.
worry about it. I've seen
Don't worry about it.
everything.
Just
I've
air
done
it out.
everything. You know,
Mhm.
earlier I said failure is a great lesson.
Mhm.
I didn't start where I'm at now 30 years later.
Mhm. Mhm.
One of the first questions a financial advisor in the investment field asked me 30 years ago, what's your net worth? And I thought, it's negative. Oh my gosh. I don't have a net worth. That was
Mhm.
embarrassing, right?
Mhm.
But it taught me to know my worth. And so I'm trying to create what I would like to offer for training is know your numbers,
Hmm.
and don't be afraid of your numbers, because you have to start somewhere. And I say those of us who have not inherited wealth are the luckiest people,
Hmm.
really,
Hmm.
because we get to create our reality. We get to follow our heart, and what we do, money always follows.
That's
I
it.
mean, I would go to work and I'd say, I don't need to win the lottery. I already won it with a job that I love.
Yes.
And I know not everyone has the luxury to find that job that they love, but it will come
Mhm.
if you do the right, if you get into the right mindset. You really do. People will open doors for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And money, money is energy, in my opinion. So it's
Yeah,
like when
it
you
is.
see, it's like the amount you're bringing in is equivalent to the value that you give. And that
Yeah,
goes for nonprofits. That goes for businesses as well. For nonprofits, it's equivalent to your impact and to your mission and sharing your mission. Places like
yeah,
this, on live, on social media, that's again, we get to share our mission on social media. Back in the day, if you wanted to do something big, you had to print out flyers, maybe do a billboard,
Right.
maybe a commercial. When are you going to save up to do that? But we have the opportunity to be able to have a click of a button and, and share our mission, what we're doing. Even a lot of my nonprofits, especially as humanitarians, have a hard time really documenting. And one thing that I pulled out of our interview today was you were saying they want the foundations that you work for wanted to be able to see that this money is impacting in the way they wanted to be able to see that. So documenting on social media, documenting, getting your reviews and things like that, or having people write up how you impacted them. That's all important.
Very, very.
Absolutely.
There's so much now that is different from even 5, 10 years ago, and how you can harness the power of the internet to really serve your purpose. And don't be, the old model, it's broken. Where it's just funding comes from one source, and many times it was either government or private foundations. But these GoFundMe campaigns, it's
Yes.
amazing how they can jumpstart your work.
Absolutely. There's a new one, Indigo, the same young lady who's doing a cat cafe.
Yeah,
She did a pretty good on Indigo. Actually, she's going to come back on and talk to us about that because she created it. It was her first time creating a platform, and it's something like GoFundMe as well. So absolutely.
right.
Let's see here. We have a couple of more questions and we're going to wrap up here, guys. Hello, Barbara. Thanks for coming in. What is a good window of time to have an organization before applying for grants?
Well, there is no one way to do anything in this field. I would just say that it depends on the nature of your work and how quickly you can, with the money that you do raise, how quickly you can create impact. So it's really, I would love to say, Barb, it's this amount of time, but honestly, I think I'd be fooling you if I told you there was a magic number. Again, it's all dependent on the kind of work that you do.
That's important. Guys, you heard it right here.
Yeah,
From the person approving the grants, because those are questions that ask me all the time. Well, when am I going to get a grant for how much? I'm like, let me get my ball out here
right.
and
And
let's take
remember,
a look.
right. And
I
remember,
have no idea. And so much of it goes into what the nonprofit is doing and
yeah,
how they're impacting, how much time their board has, what type of staff they have, how many volunteers they have. Some people can put, it's time in, and time in is the value that you get out. So some people are only doing it part-time and putting a couple hours in a week, while some people are able to put in several hours a day. So there's going to be a difference in the speed depending upon what you're able to put into the organization. So, guys,
correct.
you heard it right there as well. So, there's no way to really know. It's really all about focusing on the step that you're in, whichever step that is, and getting help with that step. Reaching out
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm in this step. Other nonprofits have been here before. Do I need to volunteer with a nonprofit? Do I need to go on and see what state? We talked about the state programs that people can get involved with. Propel specifically is one for what's your state again? I'm sorry.
Minnesota.
For Minnesota, guys, but they have some online resources that you can utilize. We put that website up here as well. There it is. But there may be something specifically for your state. One thing that me and my husband got involved with right before everything happening with COVID-19 was we started doing Toastmasters. Just because we speak online and we speak, just getting involved with other people who are doing similar things. There's no lack in other people who are passionate about, if you really just put yourself out there and start connecting. So
Correct.
we have really appreciated having you on, Terry.
Thank
Any
you so
final tips
much.
you would give or anything like that before we let you go today?
Nope. I'm
You did
sorry.
it all. That was a lot.
It's a lot. Again, I've made several points, but the one I want to leave everyone with is don't be afraid of money. Money can be your friend, and lack of money is actually a better place to be because you'll really get the message once you start to attract more money
Yes,
and address your needs. So
absolutely.
let go of
Absolutely.
the fear.
Let go of the fear, guys. We will end it on that. Let go of the fear. We will see you all next Saturday at 11 o'clock. And we'll also be popping in, of course, in our Facebook group this Wednesday at 4 o'clock for our hot seat live as well, guys. So thank you so much for joining us. Get some rest and
Thank you.
relaxation after this week, guys. And we'll see you in the next live.